Welcome back, everybody. Let's get after it.
Yeah, the only hardcore thing is that there is an extremely classified document dealing with religion, and it's about that thick. Period. But why would there be any classified material dealing with religion?
I want to go back to the religion thing. I want you to say it.
It's so far out.
All right, your objection has been noted.
Okay.
What does it say?
That we're containers. That's how supposedly the aliens look at us. That we are nothing but containers.
Containers of?
Containers. Maybe containers of souls. You can come up with whatever theory you want, but we're containers. And that's how we're mentioned in the documents. That religion was specifically created so we have some rules and regulations for the sole purpose of not damaging the containers.
This would shed a little more light on abductions and why they seem to be interested in our internal components. I don't know. I don't really have much of a thought on this one. I just thought it was interesting, so I threw it in here.
There's people walking around out here that are soulless avatars simply operating on matrix programming. They're living, but they're not alive. And they're all around us. They're all over the place. People that have never woken up to who they truly actually are. They simply are operating on the code that they've been programmed and given since they were born, since they were even in the womb at gestation. The same code, just running on programming, never exceeding the programming, never reprogramming the programming, never editing it, never hacking themselves, just running on the pure code and living a complete lie, believing that they're alive, but they're not.
This goes back to stop reacting to your life and start living your life. There's a lot of people around me who just react to life, and I used to be one of them. This is what we're all doing here. We're searching for the truth. We're trying to figure out how to live instead of react. That's what this channel is all about. We're all just digging through the mess together, trying to figure out what's real and what's not.
I think that the true data on Earth is that the Earth is cold most of the time. That right now we should be grateful that it's nice and cozy because we can live when it's warm. But I think that the data might indicate that Earth is cold more often than it's hot.
Well, that's what Randall Carlson has said. And what Randall Carlson said that really freaked me out, he goes, global warming's not scary. He goes, global cooling. That's what's really scary.
President Trump said it too.
We want to work with you to really recognize the changing climate and what it means to our forests.
It'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
Well, I don't think science knows, actually.
I think he's right. I don't think science knows, actually. This issue of global warming is a very hot topic. A lot of people get really up in arms over it if you don't agree with them completely 100%. My opinion is it's man-made for fear-mongering. And they're just using it to try to put all these new regulations and rules on us. And eventually we're going to be carbon taxed out the butt. And all for the sake of nothing. A lie.
So Mark Zuckerberg, he's having a compound built in Hawaii that has 500 square feet of underground shelter. What does he know that we don't know? I want to know. There's this new movie on Netflix called Leave the World Behind. On the plot of the movie, there's a cyber attack that happens. There's no way of communicating with one another. People are stranded, etc., etc. This is what many are speculating of what potentially could happen. Predictive programming. According to a report from Wired, Zuckerberg's super compound sits on 1,400 acres of land with top-notch security and a 5,000 square foot underground shelter that's packed with its own food and energy supplies, probably filled with reptile food that he shopped for at Petco. No, but seriously, this is kind of concerning. What does he know that we don't know? Remember the movie Day After Tomorrow? It was like an ice age in New York and it got hit with like a tsunami. That could potentially be predictive programming. We can't just focus on one movie or one TV show. It could be a multitude of movies and they could all happen simultaneously. Everything could just happen at once. I'm not trying to fearmonger over here. I'm just speculating, but I'm just saying it could happen. It could happen. Symbolism for 9/11 in The Simpsons. And it wasn't just The Simpsons. Many movies had 9/11 symbolism. Us truthers call that predictive programming. If we live in America, which I do, we should probably get the fuck out of here. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to scare nobody. I'm just saying we should probably leave. We should probably leave for like maybe a year.
It is probably full of lizard food that he bought from Petco. Great line. This one freaks me out too, because of the World Economic Forum. And right before COVID, they had all those COVID games. Now they're having shutdown games. all this stuff that they're talking about in this movie. The World Economic Forum has been talking about it now for like the past year or so. We all know how their COVID games turned out to be reality. It's like they're planning this stuff.
World, we have another lost continent. This is called the Land of Mu. Mu is described by Augustus Le Plongeon and later by James Churchward, both of whom translated very old texts from the Maya and India. Both of these cultures, on opposite sides of the world, describe a vast continent in the Pacific that reached Hawaii in the north, and as far south as Easter Island, and as far west that it almost reached the islands of Japan. James Bramwell and William Scott Elliott, both proponents of this theory, claim the continent was destroyed in a cataclysm 11,500 years ago. There's that date again. The Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japan is said to be the underwater ruins of Mu. Nam Madol in Micronesia is considered to be the southern part of Mu. The site is full of structures made of enormous logs of volcanic rock. Nobody knows who built this or how, but their society was advanced. Just recently, LiDAR imaging from the air shows that at one time, Nam Madol had an artificial irrigation system that could bring fresh water to residents all over the area. The eastern part of Mu is Easter Island, and there could be evidence of a cataclysm there. On Easter Island are the Moai statues, and you've seen these. It's lots of heads, about 1,000 actually. And most people don't realize that these statues have bodies buried deep underground. So there are two options. One, whoever built the statues first dug holes, then buried 30-foot tall, 80-ton statues up to their necks, then filled in the holes. Or two, the statues were completely above ground, but at some point were buried by something. And look at Easter Island. It's a tiny island in the middle of nowhere. At one point, 12,000 people lived there. Where did they come from? Mainstream anthropology says that people from Polynesia took a canoe out thousands of miles in the middle of the Pacific and hoped for the best. But if the continent of Mu was real, then they could have just walked there. This could also explain why Polynesian languages share similarities to Greek, and maybe why on Easter Island they worshipped a sun god called Ra'ah, which is awfully close to the Egyptian sun god Ra. And the connections don't stop there. There are similarities between Greek, Egyptian, and even Indian gods, as if all these cultures intermingled or came from a single source. Chan Thomas lays out some good evidence for the cyclical cataclysm theory. But the big questions are how and when will it happen? Well, you're not going to like the answer. Dr. Chan Thomas lays out a compelling argument for a coming global cataclysm. But when? Well, to answer that, we have to understand how it happens. In the story of Adam and Eve, Thomas includes a diagram showing the cross-section of the Earth and a description of the process.
The process of a cataclysm is known now. Look at the cross-section of the Earth inside the front cover. You'll see two molten layers, the orange ones. The important one is the thin molten layer starting 60 miles down, extending 60 miles deeper to 120 miles below the surface of the Earth. The thick, deep molten layer starting 1,800 miles down at the bottom of the mantle and extending 1,300 miles deeper is the outer core. Seismology has proven these two orange layers to be molten, and they are white hot, over 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit.
Now, Dr. Thomas was able to predict seismic activity all over the world.
Inside the Earth, the electrical and magnetic structure of the interior makes the layers act as if they were near solid. As long as the magnetic and electrical structure of the Earth maintains its orderliness, it keeps rotating on axis in a normal manner. Every few thousand years, the magnetic and electrical orderliness in the shallow molten layer is disorganized, to the extent that the shallow molten layer is allowed to act as a free liquid, which then serves as a lubricant for the ice caps to pull the shell around the Earth's interior so as to have the ice caps shift about 90 degrees into the torrid zone.
When this event occurs, the layer beneath the Earth's crust turns from solid to liquid. Then the land masses can slide around.
I really hope that this one is not true. The whole pole shift thing freaks me out. That we could just be sitting here, I could be filming this video, and all of a sudden, the Earth just flips over and the entire atmosphere gets blown off and every house gets thrown out into space. I could explain why we don't see much evidence from past civilizations all floating around out in outer space. We need some bigger telescopes so that we could see the old houses and stuff. That's where all the Tartarians are. They're all floating around out in the constellations. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, I make a new one just like it every single day. It would be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button and come back to join me tomorrow.
The Anunnaki. That's the name of the beings that, according to the ancient texts, came from heaven to earth In the Egyptian culture, they call them the Natiru, and they said they came to earth and turned mud into a kingdom. In the Bible, they call them the Anunnaki. They have these names in all different cultures. They all show up around the same time in every culture. And I started finding more instances of them in every culture I looked into around the same time period. And I go, these people really came here at some point in the distant past. It seems to be now around 450,000 years ago they arrived. And about 200,000 years ago, according to the text, not me, they started genetically tinkering with human beings, saying they were adding their essence to them to get us to do the labor for them. So around 200,000 years ago, these beings had created this mating farm, this mating laboratory called Eden. And Lil was known as the Lord. He was known as Satan, the Lord of Eden. Satan, the Lord of Eden. Satan. You wonder where that came from? Yeah, he's Satan. The snake that was in the garden was his brother, Enki. Enki came with the knowledge to Adam and Eve and told them that they were stronger and bigger and brighter, and that when he did the genetic tinkering, that he put a little extra in them, that one day in the future they would be able to tap back into it, and they themselves could rise higher than the Anunnaki. And his brother found out about this and started calling him the devil. And that information is in the myth of Adapa, which is another incredible ancient text.
Does it really talk about the Anunnaki in the Bible? Because I've read the Bible. I've read the Old Testament multiple times and the New Testament multiple times, and I don't remember seeing anything like that in there. Of course, there's a lot of words in there. It'd be easy to miss something. If anyone knows where that is, if you could point me to a chapter and verse, I would appreciate that. Interesting to see what that says.
If you have a machine that makes gravity, you can pretty much do anything. You can affect time. You can have force fields. All that stuff that's in science fiction becomes reality if you have a machine that can make gravity. And what we worked on in the desert was a machine that makes gravity.
Evidence shows these craft can manipulate space-time, create their own gravity. As Lazar has said, they can be from anywhere. They can be from ET, interdimensional, outer space, time travelers, all the above.
But this idea that you could fall in time and space, distance becomes irrelevant. Medium becomes irrelevant. That's where the trans-medium craft, they believe, people researching this within our government, believe that these craft are gravity propelled. That's why there's the new program's called All Domain, because it's space, air, and sea.
This makes me think of the theory that there is not actually any such thing as gravity, but that it is just mass. What is it? It's not mass and inertia. It's mass and something else. But we found out yesterday that apparently they won't even let you patent something if it goes against the laws of physics. Yet we've got video footage of these crafts, and the government clearly has them that can do these astronomical things that appear to defy the laws of physics. So wouldn't that mean that that law, if it can be defied, is not really a law of physics, still just a theory?
A small moon, which fragmented and broke up into multiple parts.
Granted, because it is always there. However, they will be shocked to hear this earth-shattering revelation by Graham Hancock, that this wonderful satellite is not exactly what we are being told. What has this brilliant researcher discovered about the moon? And why is it so important? Get ready to have your view of the moon seriously challenged by Graham Hancock in this video. The Earth has a single satellite known as the moon. While it has been featured in many poems, stories, and religions, the origin of the moon remains one big mystery. However, fresh evidence presented on Graham Hancock's forum, where people who are like-minded with him, shows that the moon got into its position at a time when humans already populated the Earth. The most popular theories on how the moon came about all have one thing in common, claiming the timing occurred billions of years ago. Consider the fission theory, for example. The fission theory was one of the earliest explanations for the moon's origin. It postulated that the moon was once part of the Earth and was separated from it. This idea was largely based on the moon's orbit and the rotation dynamics of the Earth. George Darwin, a prominent proponent, believed that centrifugal forces from a rapidly spinning young Earth caused a piece of it to separate and form the moon. However, this theory has several shortcomings. For one, the current dynamics of Earth's rotation and the moon's orbit do not align with this hypothesis. Moreover, the distinct compositional differences between the Earth and the moon make it implausible that the moon simply split off from our planet. Another theory, the capture theory, postulates that the moon was formed elsewhere in the solar system and was later captured by Earth's gravitational pull. The primary challenge with this theory is the intricate mechanics required for such a capture. The moon would need a mechanism to decelerate sufficiently to be ensnared by Earth's gravity. The chances of such an event are statistically low. Furthermore, the isotopic similarities between Earth and the moon make it unlikely that the moon originated in a distant part of the solar system. There is also the double planet hypothesis. This theory suggests a simultaneous formation of the Earth and moon as a binary system from the primordial accretion disk of the sun. However, the moon's smaller iron core and its different density and composition compared to Earth indicate they didn't form from identical material concurrently. However, the most popular is the giant impact hypothesis.
Yet another thing that Darwin got wrong. This makes me wonder, is our moon in the inhabitable zone? Could we turn our moon, if it's actual rock, an actual moon, not plasma or some of the other theories that are out there? Could we not inhabit that? Could we not form an atmosphere on it? Because it's so close to Earth, isn't it close enough that it's in the inhabitable zone, at least part of the time? But as far as the theories on how the moon got here, I just heard a bunch of theories that got discredited in that video. I didn't really see one that stood out as, oh, we think this is how it happened.
That is Stonehenge. It's very cool. But what it actually does is going to blow your mind. I learned that this was a seasonal clock, and it is, but you have to look at it from a different lens. This is what sound looks like going through water. This is Stonehenge. It is built on top of an aquifer. So, who else builds their things on top of water? Well, I showed you in the last video that pretty much everybody builds their best stuff on top of water, even Tesla. Light goes through it. Light can melt the hardest things on the planet when focused, and when used for communication, it's the fastest way to do that. It looks like a pattern of sound. Sound travels fastest through solids and can destroy cities if it's a big enough wave. Sound is a bigger wave than light. Sound can move mediums it passes through, like water, and bend the light. That's how we get cymatic images. You can see this in the twinkling of stars as well. Our technology sends ones and zeros through light. Let's pretend everything around us is made of a very unique vibration that can be expressed in a frequency. Or you can grow crops with it.
All right, I just watched that twice. If anyone can tell me what the heck this guy's getting at down in the comments, my brain just couldn't pick up what he was trying to put down.
Have you heard of the 80-year theory? Basically, every 80 years, there's a crucial change that ultimately changes humanity. We're coming up on 2024. 80 years ago,
oh geez,
World War II.
Wow.
80 years before 1944, 1864, the Civil War. 80 years before that, the end of the Revolutionary War, America becoming the United States. And so he's like, what's going to happen in 2024 if we're sticking to this 80-year theory? But he brought up like AI. He's like, AI didn't exist.
Oh, that's scary, man. I just saw on TikTok, there's this girl who's like an orthodontist or something, pretty popular on TikTok. She's verified and everything. She just saw a video of somebody having a product for oral care, and it's her at the bottom.
What?
Using her voice and her face and her body and everything to endorse that product.
What?
And there's no way of stopping it.
Yeah.
You would have to have a full internet shutdown.
It's too late. AI is in everything.
You're not going to be able to stop it.
I don't think it's AI we got to worry about in 2024. I think as far as those of us in the United States, I think that our government is going to try to do what they did in 2020 and end up destroying this country. And we're going to end up in a civil war. That's just my personal thoughts on it. No matter what your politics are, there's some screwy stuff going on right now, and none of it's good.
But this is the thing about the whole flat Earth, round Earth thing. Like, why people care if people believe in the Earth the way the Bible describes it? Why do people get so mad about that?
Does the Bible describe it as flat?
Yeah,
it does.
With the dome, the firmament, and everything.
Oh, that's news to me.
That's new. You never read the Bible?
No.
That's the problem.
That is a problem.
So
That's why I go to
so,
hell.
So why do people get mad at people if they just describe the Earth the way the oldest history book describes it?
Yeah. So does this mean you think it's flat?
Yep.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
Whoa.
I just don't talk about it because it's like something like Einstein said, you know, saying to a dumb motherfucker, ignorant motherfucker sound dumb. So I was like,
I get it, dude. I love it.
I wanted to leave this in here because I get asked in the comments all the time, like, what is the point? Why do people care about if the Earth is flat? And it's a religion thing, man. When your religious text tells you that the Earth is a certain way, and you believe that that book is the Word of God, then you're going to put faith in that word. And so whenever anyone tries to discredit that and say, no, that actually that book is wrong, this is the way reality really is, of course that's going to burn some people. It's going to get some people upset. To me, I don't care one way or the other. It doesn't matter to me what other people believe. I'm searching for the truth for myself. But if you believe the Earth is round, or if you believe the Earth is flat, it doesn't make any difference to me. It doesn't matter. It's not going to affect how I view things. It's only going to affect how you view things. And so people getting upset over stuff like that, yes, it makes sense, but at the same time, it doesn't. Because what you think has no impact on what I believe. It's just like the politics thing. Not to get back into another touchy subject here. You almost can't discuss it. Because if you don't believe exactly to a T what someone else believes, they will write off everything else you have to say because you don't agree in politics. But I also wanted to state, just for clarity, the Bible also says, where were you when I set the world on its axis? So it depends on what part of the Bible you're reading on your depiction or description of how this plane looks.
In 1991, an intelligence official said to me, he said, Dr. Greer, if you tell the public the truth about this, you will be discredited because the truth is much more bizarre than the fiction we've been selling. I am not going to any longer hold back on what the full information on this is, because this is all coming out now. I mean, even the mainstream media is covering it with their spin and filters, but the Congress and people in the Pentagon who are looking into this in great depth are now finding out about this. And so, you know, we don't have another decade or even another year or two, I think, to fritter time away. I think we're going to have to move quickly. And yes, it's going to be a bit of a future shock to people, but it's got to happen, you know, because the world most people believe now is the equivalent of the sun went around the earth. And remember, 500 years ago, Galileo was excommunicated by the church for daring to suggest that the planets went around the sun.
Did he just say that the world most people are living in now is a world in which they believe that the sun rotates around the earth? I think he misspoke. Surely he misspoke right there. There's no way that's what he meant to say. This is another one of those videos where they are just alluding to, oh, we've got some great information we're about to drop on you, and then nothing.
Think what you will about this man, Tucker Carlson. If you want to know where to look for the truth, or at least truth adjacent, look who the mainstream attacks the most. Might have some interesting truths to listen to. But I want to play a little bit of a segment from one of his speeches at an event, talking about our hidden history. And if you haven't checked out Roseanne Barr's podcast, yes, she has one, with Tucker Carlson, highly recommend it. I grew up watching this show with my mom. Nice little Illinois town just like us. So when I heard old Rosie talk about Tartaria, the mud flood, giants, Nephilim, instantly got me excited. And if she wants to talk about Tartaria, just give me a jingle. Maybe some of my awesome supporters here tag her in the comments below. I'll chat with her.
Somebody sent me a piece. There's a group called Media Matters, which is it's a censorship organization funded by Soros and a lot of other people who hate Western civilization, designed to prohibit people from saying certain things. Well, the things that they're prohibiting people from saying are 100% true, and that's why they're prohibiting it. Somebody sent me a piece today where Media Matters attacked a guy for suggesting that our historical timelines were wrong, and there had in fact been advanced civilizations in earlier moments in time, and that they had been eliminated somehow through climactic events, through natural disasters, and that we're not aware of them in any detail. Well, that's a really interesting hypothesis. I have no idea if it's true. It kind of seems to be true. I'm not emotional about it either way. I'd like to learn more because I think it's really interesting. We have no idea how how the pyramids were built, for example. How can we not know that? We sent a man to the moon, and you can't replicate the technology that created the pyramids? You don't even have a good guess as to how they were built? We don't. We don't even know when they were built. Those are facts. So a normal, curious person would say, well, why don't we know that? And what does it tell us about ourselves and about the past that we don't know? That's what I would think people would ask. They were attacking this guy for asking that question. And I was like, why would Media Matters care about your opinions on the pyramids? Why do they care? Or whether they were big civilizations in Illinois 10,000 years ago, which there were, by the way. They used metal. Amazing. But why would anyone care? Well, they care because that's true. That is just true. And the current version of history that we've been told is not only incomplete, it's just wrong. It's just flat out wrong. Now, I don't know what the truth is. I don't know what it means, and I would never claim to. But I know that what I learned as a kid is wrong. And so it is much closer to the truth to say we have no freaking idea how they built the pyramids, and that's kind of amazing. And Media Matters was offended. Now, why were they offended? They were offended purely because it was true.
I think a lot of this archaeology and history stuff, the constant infighting, no, this is what's true, no, this is what's true, and people getting called pseudo-archaeologists and pseudo-historians and stuff like that, all comes down to people who have a lifelong career teaching a specific idea. Now they're trying to gatekeep in that area of study to make sure that they maintain their idea as the top idea. Otherwise, they've spent their entire career looking like a fool. And I really think that a lot of it's not nefarious. It's just people not wanting to admit that they're wrong. I do think some of it is probably nefarious, but I really do think that like 99% of it is just that.
Published in Nature magazine, evidence for human presence in North America 130,000 years ago. Now, this has really put the cat amongst the pigeons. Now, if humans were present in North America 130,000 years ago, and archaeologists have been telling us for 50 years that they were only present from 13,000 years ago, that's 10 times as long that we've had humans in North America capable of doing stuff, and the archaeological dogma has prevented any search for what they were doing.
What was the evidence from 130,000 years ago?
The evidence that we find is evidence for human presence. And what they were doing was very much Stone Age stuff. It's a mastodon. It's a mastodon skeleton that was excavated. It was actually found by accident during road construction near San Diego. And an archaeologist was attached to the road construction crew and immediately stopped construction. And they investigated it thoroughly. And what they found was so much dynamite in the early 1990s when they found it that they decided not to publish at the time. Because what they found was evidence that those mastodon bones had been cracked open by human beings using tools, and that the marrow had been extracted.
However, they don't know that it was humans that did it, because we know that there were like cavemen, Neanderthal, different types of Homo sapiens. So it's very plausible that it was one of them. You know, I don't believe in evolution, I don't believe in the theory of evolution. I think Darwin was off by a long shot. We know that there have been different types of Homo sapiens here. We have the skeletal remains of them. So to say that it's obviously humans from 130,000 years ago, just to play devil's advocate, there's no real way of us knowing that.
Let's go back to the moon for a moment, because some have pointed out how there's no crater underneath the lunar module landing. The jet propulsion would have likely created a crater, or at least some type of big marking from its landing. There isn't any dust anywhere though, not even on the legs or feet of the module. I would think that some kind of dust or rocks should have been blown around from the lunar module landing on the moon. Keep in mind that the module had a 10,000-pound thrust engine, except it seems to have left no disturbance underneath it.
This is a 7,500-pound thruster. Look at its power. Look at its heat. Look at the light it creates. Look at the dust it kicks up. And yes, the Apollo astronauts claim that its lunar lander also kicked up dust, and the phony footage shows the same. The Apollo lunar lander had a bigger thruster at 10,000 pounds. Obviously, the 10,000-pound thruster failed to displace or scorch any of the lunar soil. In one case, you can see the nozzle is actually bent as it collapsed on the surface. The nozzle is literally buried in the ground, and still it did not affect the lunar soil. But this gets even better. This is official NASA footage of the Apollo 15 and 17 ascent stages. Remember, the engine was never even allegedly turned on beforehand. In addition to the preposterous and obviously fake footage, NASA claims that it used a remote control to operate the camera on the moon buggy left behind, and then beamed that video footage back to Earth 234,000 miles away. We didn't even have decent television remote controls in 1972. But NASA could not only operate the camera from 234,000 miles, NASA could also pan up and follow the lunar ascent stage and zoom out all in real time without delay. Look again, the camera zooms out and pans up in real time, and this remote control was supposedly 234,000 miles away. That, ladies and gentlemen, is impossible.
That is impossible. In 1972, it's kind of absolutely ridiculous whenever you just sit and think about it. You know, the more I see of these, the moon landing clips and stuff, the more I feel like an idiot for ever believing that we actually landed on the moon. And I know people will fight me in the comments and say that we did land on the moon. I just don't believe it. It just doesn't look realistic. It looks like it was made in some Hollywood studio. It all looks fake. It all looks so super fake. So give me some evidence and I'll believe it, because I'm all about following the evidence. But the evidence on the moon landing all points to it being faked. And I'm going to leave it here on that one. I hope you guys enjoyed the clips that I threw together in this video. Based on what you guys have been telling me in the comments, I'm heading the right direction with the way I'm structuring things on the videos and stuff now, so we're going to continue to go in this direction. I hope you guys will come back and join me for the next one tomorrow. I'll see you then. Have a great, fantastic, safe day, and I will see you tomorrow.